Hello and welcome to the second ESL Power Cup, which is being played here on the map Morksmire. This is a round of 8 game between LaFaf, who is playing over here on the right as the Marines, and his opponent JBJ, who is playing as the Orcs on the left. Starting off with heroes as always. We've had a bit of a lot of variation in the meta. The meta's looking a lot better now. It's been a while since I've done a Dawn of War game, but there's been a lot going on with how people have been playing. So we got the Mega Knobs, very standard, traditional late game 1v1 hero choice. We have the Storm Boys, 2-cost hero choice, always worth getting. And then we have Zapnoggin, who after his nerf has still managed to be a prominent hero. He had a little while of not being chosen. The typical post-nerf syndrome that we have going on in a lot of these games, and I just clicked the wrong button, so it went fast there for a little second. And on the Marine side, we have a very similar setup. However, we do not have that late-game powerhouse that we have in the form of the Mega Knobs. We have the 2-point Kill Team Ironmore, very standard, very much the typical thing to do. We have the 3-point Librarian, who I think is absolutely a must-have in this sort of meta. There's a lot of big, heavy clumps of shooters, of looters, of devastators, of Dark Reapers, and being able to have that wall to just absolutely stop the shots from going through can be incredibly helpful. It's a really powerful tool. And then Gabriel Angelos, who for a 4-point elite is incredibly powerful. He can do a lot in keeping things back. And we already have quite an interesting start to this game with the Scout Snipers, a unit that was used a lot near the beginning of the game when people hadn't quite got used to the range of these things and the safety that they had in moving forward. As we see this fight starting, he's done a good job moving his Scout Squad away from the boys who are going in. These boys are just hyping themselves up at the front, while the other boys are taking on this squad of Tactical Marines that were dropped in. As you can see, quick mention of the nice unit variety we have here. We're seeing all of the possible early units that these guys have chosen to make out here. Some more scouts coming down. And this engagement is just going to close off. Nothing should die here. So, all of that muttering basically comes down to Gabe's good, scouts are good. And that's sort of what's happening. This good catch there, actually, by those scouts is going to lead to them dying there from a couple of the stealth shots of these scouts. And we're going to have a war going down here from JBJ against LaFaf. LaFaf, actually, a player who I personally know a lot more for his orcs and has done from some of the older VODs I watched. I remember a lot of him being one of the first people I saw who really used some war timings. But very good player, both of these very good players. This tournament itself has a lot of good names in it. There's only a couple names that I'm not very common with who are going to be in this round of 8, and one of them makes it to the round of 2, and one of them beat a good player in getting into the round of 8. So this is very competitive, definitely the most competitive Dawn of War 3 has been so far, as we have the Orcs taking this top point. So far, a lot of requisition generators going down, which is actually kind of confusing because not a lot of people take all of the requisition generators. Normally people go 1 or 2, but this Marine player actually taken 2 in the middle as well. This Marine player, LaFaf, I forgot the names there for a second. LaFaf versus JBJ, and actually 2 energy points going down there. That hasn't quite been fixed yet, it seems. Nothing going down on the bottom or the top yet. So a very slight advantage, I'd say, to the Orcs, as he has energy rather than these requisition that are in the center. But overall, it's not too bad. Now, 2 energy points, 2 elite points have been made up by both of these sides. And you can see right here, as it's starting, we do have this 1 tactical squad and this 1 scout squad that are giving the bit of variety. But we're seeing here the strategy that's been picked up by most Marine players now, which is this mass scout composition. The strength of scouts had been shown very early on to be, a possible thing to run. Even when Eldar were having their incredibly OP phase right at the beginning, some players were countering that by just making so many scouts that you could keep Dire Avengers stunned forever. But now that people have got more practice into the late game and have learnt how powerful predators can be, we really are seeing the scouts come into their own again, because the scouts they won't win you the game ever. They're not going to give you this super strong push or anything incredibly up there, but they will manage to keep you alive against almost anything and let you get to that late game. I'm actually gonna up the sound a bit because I think it's a little low. People have mentioned to me that they wanted some louder sounds in here, and I've actually changed my audio settings a bit recently, so I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to sort of reset everything on the fly, you know. So these first few games that I do might be a little bit quiet, or I might be a little bit loud, or I might be a little bit quiet, or whatever. Actually, looking at OBS, I'm going to do it a lot more. I apologize for this. I'm just going to do it all the way. Let's just absolutely go for it. No, actually, this is probably a better compromise. Just doing a bit of both. Right, there we go. I can hear a few more sounds now. Hopefully this is alright for you. I will check the video after this. Oh, there we go. That's the sound I was looking for. I love that sound. I was missing this sound. You see, any other matchup, any other sounds, I might not have noticed as much, but my boy, the War Tower, needs to be heard. And now, actually, it's interesting to see that the LaFaf has chosen not to take his kill team and actually has enough points to get the Librarian out now, and he might even be just willing to wait up until he gets that early Angelos. If he's not getting pressured, I can totally see him doing that. Now, he's going to lose this middle point, but how much of a cause really is that? He is deciding that that's enough worry to drop down the Librarian, who's going to hit a big lightning storm there on some of the boys as his scouts are sitting up here. Scouts do absolutely no damage, and they're going to get hit by quite a big suicide squad there from the Storm boys. The listing post is about to go down, but the banner has gone up, protecting all of this stuff. Some big stuns onto those boys, keeping the listening post up, and it's actually not going to go down. A very good hold from LaFaf there. Very decisive. Decided that he could get that, and he's going to even catch some of these retreating boys in the wall. That's incredible. What's the name of the wall? What's the name of this wall? Let's find out what the name of this wall is. It's just called Stonewall. Nice. That's a nice, easy name to remember. I might even remember that. So we're going to lose a few boys here, and as you can see at the bottom, this is ridiculous. This might require a slight bit of taming on the balance end. Although I hope they don't nerf scouts. I hope that's not their answer. I hope their answer is keeping Marines late game to a position where this isn't quite enough. Maybe the blind grenade does need a little bit of a nerf, to be fair. So we have another war being thrown down right now. So the scouts are just filling up this top field. This top field does seem to be the place where most battles in this game end up taking place, honestly. And I'm not sure why that is, because, you know, this top point is worse, I would say, than the bottom point. You do have this forward sort of slightly more exposed point down here, which might be the reason for it. But normally down the bottom side, most of the fights you see are either by each of these power generators. Like, these are the sort of fields that really get the combo when you're pushing up onto these. They get to be the battlefield, the bloodied plains before the enemy's base. But basically just trading points here, which is arguable which one of these is a better point to have, in my opinion. I think the top point is definitely easier to defend, especially seeing as a lot of fights go down here. And you're actually going to get a lot of scout harassment fire on this front bit of base with some snipers in there. A lot of grenades just keeping his army entirely pinned the whole time, because there's so many of them in there. Yeah, these stun grenades might be a bit too powerful to have on a unit that small. Actually, interesting there. I'm not sure that was a good use of the wall, because the wall is actually protecting this war, and you see it actually just gets dispelled there really early on. The war tower going to go down. This orc army is getting pretty much devastated, but the librarian is very weak as well, I think. Or, oh no, he's half health. That health bar sort of confused me, but there are going to be some good stick bombs sitting on the back of here. That's going to do a lot of damage to these scouts, and they're going to back off a bit more as this army comes up from the bottom. Here we go, and the knobs here going to get in, going to get a possibility of a big taunt off. They're going to grab a good amount of scouts out of the edge, not a huge taunt, but they're going to cut this force down to size a bit. And this is the point now with 2 knob squads out where this scout army is getting a bit more scarce, especially as they have used a lot of their grenades. The grenades are close to coming back up, to be fair. The shield doctrine for the, or the taunt doctrine for the knobs there. Very nice. You've got some of these bouncing shots coming in from the librarian. Scouts, once again, just harassing off the edge, slightly out of range, but the war is going to go down, and then these orcs are probably going to charge. We have the 2 points up available for a kill team, which means, as you can see, the weird boy has come out and he's hit a very good Mork or Gork's hand. Fist of Gork, yeah. And this scout army may have stayed here too long because they're taking so much damage now. And these shooters are just going to absolutely violate these scouts, and these scouts aren't going to be able to really take out these knobs. One squad does fall, and the weird boy's coming in to start getting some damage on in this back line. AoE doesn't hit very well there, only hits the librarian, but he got in a little bit late, to be fair to him, to get any of that. He really wants to see a truck come down so he can get some more. Those scouts did not want to come out of invisibility there, did they? I'm very much not sure about that. These knobs just taking some damage on the retreat. It's come off fine, and they have now, that's the kill team with their flamer. Still, just going with scouts, just making scouts. And we can see that, you know, he'll probably keep making scouts until he can get a machine cult down. We can see that he is in tier 2. So he can start making them soon. So far, he has the Doctrine Travel down, interestingly, actually, even though I don't believe we have seen any Devastators from him, while he is getting infantry upgrades with his power, which is interesting because that means he's going to be slowing down his ascent, actually, to those armored vehicles and such. The standard actually going down in this bush right behind the orcs. The scouts are going to come out here without them knowing. The shooters are quite clumped, so they're going to take a lot of damage there. A big drop down there from these scouts. Flamethrower getting a lot of damage on the side of this, and the wall going to try and trap some people in there. I think that wall was possibly not entirely needed. A big taunt going to cancel the wall, and a big Fist of Gork going to slam on top of both of those heroes right there. But this fight is, even with that good comeback plays there coming from JBJ, this fight is really not looking well. The Nob squad is almost entirely going down, and then it's just going to be the Weird Boy against a load of scouts. And you know the scouts don't do a lot of damage when even the Weird Boy is looking tanky, but these Nobs are going to get taken down on the end, it looks like. They've got some melee there to catch them up. They've got a stun grenade in there. And now LaFaf is definitely in for a huge advantage because look, he has all of this middle, and he has made generators on all of these. He hasn't quite finished all of them. He is getting the elite point generator in the middle. He hasn't got this last power generator at the top, but he has a lot of resources over your boy JBJ. If we just quickly check, you see JBJ has a bit more power. But that's likely because we don't see an upgrade building down from him at all. He is going for the Death Dreads. He has decided to move on. I've seen a lot of thoughts in the community that the Death Dreads are bad. I think the amount of good players... there's a pile of guns going down. I think the amount of good players who use them as their primary sort of... stormtroops for the late game sort of shows that that's probably not true. They may not be as good as the late game powerhouses that other factions have, especially Marines, but they can be really incredibly useful as just something that can get into the enemy line and just force them to split, force them to back up, force them to react or take a lot of damage. But these scouts are coming in here. They're actually going to catch the Weird Boy, and they're actually looking to keep the Weird Boy and the Dread locked in order to try and get a kill here. They can actually, they've realised they can hit both with a single stun grade, and the Weird Boy is going to go entirely down. The Vortex Grenade coming in to make sure the job will be finished, but these orcs are coming in from the top now. Only one squad of shooters. A lot of damage done there by that lightning bolt. That's going to take a lot of damage, and the Death Dread is going down in the back. Some of the orc army isn't just here, or it's just tiny. It looks like there isn't actually any other orcs on the map. All these little dots I'm seeing around a Gretchen. And now there's just a big force of Marines moving in to push on JBJ's side. even though these are only scouts, they are putting in some work, and now there are Devastators which are going to be bringing up the brunt of this force. It looks like this is his plan. Rather than going for the Predators, which does make for a much longer game, he's decided that he can end it much quicker if he just goes for the infantry upgrades and gets those Devastators, which are a powerful late game unit, and that is exactly what he has done. Ended it here early. 1-0 lead to your boy LaFaf with the Marines over JBJ.